Hello, I'm Colleen. Welcome to my art center and studio. In 1975, I graduated from Shawshene Tech, and I graduated with knowledge in graphic design. And so I've been doing graphic design for the last, well, since 1975. So I still do that. It's a great way for me to do my art and also do that. And I love working with words and letters and designs, and it's all, to me, it's all good. It's all part of the creative process. When I first learned how to do folk painting, the reason I loved it was because it was no bars hold. It was make up whatever you want. You can make a chicken bigger than a kid. You can do whatever you want. And it helped me to stretch my own ability, because I could always say, well, it's folk art. And I got better and better and better with making things look realistic. And when I would do art shows, people would come in and they would look at my work and they would go, huh, you're really good at this. And I go, yeah, I mean, I can do realistic work, but it was by choice that I loved the design work of folk art. And I would have to say for the last few years, I've changed it from being kind of the traditional old-fashioned folk art where you know, you have horse and buggies and stuff like that, to more contemporary folk art, like the piece that's beside me of the Lowell Sun building. And I've started to actually incorporate a lot of design work in my art. So I do funky trees and do fun things. And in the last few years, I've decided to kind of change not my style, but more make it a little more contemporary. And I've really been enjoying it and making more modern colors and picking subject matters like Boston and Lowell and places that are around me, and then adding a lot of design work to it. Or sometimes I just do it and I make up designs. I'm on a project right now where I'm doing the whole alphabet from A to Z. And so when we were here, I started getting involved, and I got a grant from the Arts Council to do a painting of Bill Ricca. And it got in the paper, and it was part of Yankee Doodle Weekend that we have here. And I did a limited edition print of 200 of our town center with the parade. And on the first day of Yankee Doodle Weekend, I sold 100 prints in a day. And I was like grabbing my friends and saying, just like write out slips and, you know, take money and give people a print. You know, I didn't know it was going to be so successful. And then the next day I sold more. And I sold that limited edition out in a year, which is really, I mean, I've had other limited editions since then, and you know, I still have some of them, you know. So it's amazing how well it was received. And Bill Ricca has been a huge support system for me, but I've also been a huge support system for them. This is a perfect example of how I've come from doing a style like this, and then this is my newer style where it's much more color and vivid, and a lot having to do with the design factor that I have in there, where I'm just having fun with patterns. So that's more my contemporary, and then this is some of my older, but they always have like a little bit of a story to them. I don't just paint just random. I tie something in life to it. So this one is gratitude is the memory of the heart, and it's Thanksgiving, and I always remember going to my grandmother's house for Thanksgiving and visiting with her, and she lived in like this gray cape, and I just doesn't look like this, but I made it up. And so this is me and my family and my 3 sisters and mom and dad and my little brother, and those are my grandparents. And so I just kind of put things in there that just mean something to me. And then this one is called Waiting for Kate. And when my granddaughter, my daughter was in going to have the baby, we were waiting. I was waiting that day, and I was finishing up the painting, so I made a little house over here, and it says Kate on it. And so I named the painting Waiting for Kate because she was born. And then when I went into the hospital that day to see her, my daughter, we knew her name was going to be Kate, but somebody asked, well, does she have a middle name? And they said, oh, we're naming her Kate Colleen. And I started crying. I'm like, oh my God, they named her after me. So this is my little Kate Colleen painting. So the medium that I started with when I first started painting was oily enamel. The man that I took classes from, he was a sign painter, so he used oily enamels for sign painting, so he started painting that way. So that oily enamel comes in a can, and we would just pour it out, and I would use that and we would paint right on wood. And so for years, that's how I painted. But I began to become more environmentally conscious, and so I stopped using it and moved over to acrylics because that was more of a lead-based paint. So now I mostly paint with acrylics. I would say that in the last 8 years, I always wanted to learn watercolors, and I took a class in watercolors, and I also now do watercolors. I teach it also. So I love that the way that watercolors reacts to the paper and how it moves around and how it's very unpredictable. If you look at my folk style, I'm very exact and use fine paint brushes and stuff like that. So when I first started, I was like, whoa, this is out of control. And but then I began to like the fact that it was out of control, and that you never could create the same image the same way, because watercolors just kind of has that fun, and I like letting things just sort of flow. So once it clicked with watercolors, I just loved it, and I do a lot of more realism kind of painting with watercolors and have fun with that. And I kind of took a little bit of a break from the folk painting because I felt like folk painting tends to have its ups and downs in what people want, and it goes in and out of style, but it always comes back. So when I have a company that gets my stuff on puzzles and calendars and cards and stuff like that, so they were like, we want more folk art, we want more folk art, and I felt myself resisting that, and so I decided that I was going to make it a little bit more contemporary, and so I kind of upped my game a little bit and started changing how I do my folk art, and I really am excited about it again because it's very fun and folky but colorful and more design orientated and very contemporary. So I got involved in by one of my clients that called me. His name is Jeff Hyatt, and he is on the board of Veterans Counts. So he asked me if I would get involved and put out a call to artists in the Lowell, Billerica area to see if artists wanted to paint one of these eagles. So they created, so you get these eagles that are all made from fiberglass, and there's going to be 45 eagles, and each artist designed their own design for them. So I designed mine. I put mine into that. They had it online, and then businesses come in and sponsor the artists. So artists receive a stipend for doing the eagle, which is paid by the sponsor, and then they get auctioned. I got a call while I was away on vacation, and Jeff had told me that the Red Sox had agreed to sign an eagle. And the only eagle he had was the sample that he was wheeling around to show everybody as he was building up publicity for this project. And he said, I need somebody to paint this in 2 weeks. So would you like to do it? And I said, yeah. This one of the stories behind this is when my grandmother, this is a print, but I have the original at home. So my grandmother, we grew up hearing stories from my grandmother because she was raised by the nuns in an orphanage in Boston. And she used to tell us that she thought, as a little girl, that the nuns didn't sleep, that they stayed in their habits, and they went to heaven at night and they came down in the morning. And I just always remember that that was one of the fun little stories that, and now as an adult I go, yeah, she just thought that they were so holy that they couldn't possibly go to sleep, that they went to heaven. And so I did this painting of the nuns going up to heaven and the little girls with their little beds, and there's my grandmother on her knees praying. So it's kind of fun. The reason I paint is so that people can enjoy what I do. And so I think it was interesting. Somebody once asked me, you know, like what is your purpose in life, you know? And some artists might say, oh, it's to paint and stuff like that. And I see art as my vehicle to touch the lives of people, because people, to me, I love people, and the art is just my vehicle. So, you know, whatever it is that you're doing, if love is and kindness and goodness is your aim, then what you're using to accomplish that is really what it's all about. And that's what will bring inner happiness and inner peace, is to love what you do and love why you're doing it.